What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your Brewmaster-in-Chief. And tonight, in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with a Sultai list. And this is a spicy one, guys. I've been working on it for a few days. Those of you who are very keen, have very keen eyes, keep track of some of the deck boxes that you see when I'm in this part of the video, and you will have noticed that Sultai Jin-Clex has been working its way to the front lines, and it's finally ready. This is an interesting one. It's definitely firmly in the Serious Jank category. It's not competitive yet. Maybe there'll be some edits we can make that'll bring it to the next level. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But without further ado, I'd like to present you my beautiful, beautiful brew. This is a work of love. I've got one copy of Valki, the God of Lies, and we're really interested in the backside here, guys. Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. And you're like, but it's got red in its casting cost. How will we cast it? No problem. A la old school Sultai Ultimatum decks, we've got Binding of the Old Gods, which can, on the second chapter, search your library for a forest card and put into battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And we have the customary sneaky one of Highland Forest, which is a mountain and forest. So you can fetch this. I've also got the Woodland Chasm in case we cast multiple Binding of the Old Gods during the game, which I really hope we will. And by multiple, I mean wow, and we'll get to that in a moment. But this will allow us to hardcast Tybalt, which is great. Just a nice planeswalker, so something to keep track of. When you have these spicy one-offs, you could get it in the early game. Maybe it would be better to mulligan it away. If the hand's not fantastic, that would even make your decision even easier to make. You're just like, okay, sweet, and then you'll just hopefully top deck it at the perfect moment in the game. Then we've got full playset of the Prosperous Innkeeper. Fantastic because of the treasure tokens, which is incidentally another way we could also hardcast Tybalt using the mana from the treasures. But I like it because it ramps us. We can have a turn 3 Esika's Chariots, but also nice because, again, with the Esika's Chariots, every time the creature token enters the battlefield, you gain a little bit of life. Having a little bit of life gain in the control deck is fantastic. Then we've got a full playset of the Reckoner Bankbuster, and I'm again trying to answer this question. Is it enough to just play a full playset of the Bankbuster, and it's sort of taking the place of the Deadly Dispute, Shambling Ghast combo, duo, to, draw cards in any deck that plays black? Really, you kind of cannot avoid playing Shambling Ghast, Deadly Dispute, and it takes up like 4 or 8, slots in your deck, which could go to other fantastic cards. And is it okay to get rid of that and just replace that whole thing with just Reckoner Bankbuster as your card advantage, card draw engine? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. From my current testing experience, if you do have one in the opening hand and you maybe top deck one a little bit in the early game, then it's okay because you can draw enough cards to get you to where you need. Otherwise, the only other way we have of drawing cards is Tamiyo's -7, where she makes this little notebook, and spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, and you can tap it to draw a card. So just use your Bankbusters properly, draw your cards in the right times, and keep mulligan properly, keep the right hands. I'll try and illustrate that as much as possible in tonight's gameplay footage. Then we've got a full playset of the Meathook Massacre, which is just the best sweeper in the format. And it is a legendary enchantment, which is relevant in the deck because we do have a couple of copies of the Mirror Box. So we can potentially have multiple Meathook Massacres in play. That little bit of life gain, life drain is fantastic. And there's lots of aggro decks, so it's just good to have access to a sweeper right now in pretty much every format, in every deck that you play. And I like it the best because you can have big creatures like we have a 6/6 and a 5/5, and you can just do X's 4 and wipe all of their stuff, and your creatures stay alive. Also, it doesn't hit planeswalkers, which is important in our deck. Then we've got 3 copies of Sword coming as our counterspell of choice. It's still my favorite 3-mana counterspell. in the format. There's been a couple of new ones, Dissipate, and you know, the one that makes a zombie, decayed zombie. This one's just still better. It can be foretold. The opponent is left thinking, oh my goodness, what is that? That's foretold there. It could be anything, which is kind of the best thing about Foretell, in my opinion. And you know, then that means it can no longer be interacted with by discard and you know, hand hate type decks, and it can then be cast for 2, which is a nice little cost reduction as well. Then, as far as instant speed removal, I've gone for Hero's Downfall, coming back. I'm liking this card more and more. It's just so clean. It's like, it feels like Murder in you know, those guys that play with the free-to-play decks. Just 3 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker. No fancy fluffy text, nothing crazy. It's just boom, creature or planeswalker, 3 mana, bye-bye. Mirror Box, I touched upon briefly when I was talking about the Massacre. This is very important in the deck, and there's only 2 copies, but that's okay, because we want to just have one and hold it. We only want to cast this once Jin-Gitaxias is in play. The reason for that is whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, we get to copy that spell. So if Jin-Gitaxias is in play and you cast a Mirror Box, 2 Mirror Boxes would enter the battlefield. But what the Mirror Box does is it not only means that the legend rule doesn't apply, but that's kind of almost like the least crazy thing it does, because each legendary creature you control then gets +1/+1, and each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. So if you've got both your Jin-Gitaxias in play, they'll be getting the +1/+1 from the Mirror Box and the +1/+1 from being 2 of the same thing and play with the same name. And because you can have like multiple Mirror Boxes, it can get crazy. Of course, what happens when Jin-Gitaxias it copies your artifact, as you can see there in brackets, it says a copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. So now, Esika's Chariot, what does Esika's Chariot do? It copies tokens. So you can start copying anything that you've copied with Jin-Gitaxias. If you cast Surgehacker Mech with Jin-Gitaxias in play, this is one of my favorite plays. When Surgehacker Mech enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control. So even if you have no vehicles in play and you cast this with Jin-Gitaxias, 2 would come into play. You get double triggers. It would be 4 damage per trigger, and you can go planeswalker or creature. If you have, you know, and we've got many more vehicles than that. You know, Reckoner Bankbuster is a vehicle. Esika's Chariot is a vehicle. So this thing can come into play and do a lot of damage to creature or planeswalker, which is another nice removal spell. But that's not the only way we have of making tokens that can be then copied with Esika's Chariot. Tamiyo, the Compleated Sage, the second ability, the -X, exiles a target non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard, and you create a token that's a copy of that card. My favorite one is this. You let the binding go into the graveyard, 3rd chapter ticks away, boop, off it goes. Then you -4 on the second ability. You bring back Binding of the Old Gods as a token. You destroy something the opponent has. Then you crew Esika's Chariot and you attack. You copy the token Binding of the Old Gods. You destroy something else the opponent plays. Very quickly, the opponent has nothing left on the battlefield. And every time that they play something, you just crew up your Chariot, attack, make another binding, destroy it. It's so much fun. It's like endless removal. I've had like, 4 or 5 of these. You can have like 3 at any one given time on the battlefield, because then, the chapter ticks off and then it's a token, so it disappears when it's finished. So you got to keep copying it. Otherwise, once it's gone, because you're exiling the thing from your graveyard with Tamiyo. But just such a fun little loop there, and one that I hope to get to go off during tonight's gameplay footage. Which brings us to binding. other than the first ability, which is great in the current meta, destroy any non-land permanent. So, you know, all of our enchantment players, etc., can get rid of anything. All of our artifacts players, planeswalkers, you name it, except for lands, this thing can destroy it. Then the ability to search up this Highland Forest so that we can play Valki, really, really cool. And then, of course, eventually that it can be copied with the Esika's Chariot for this endless removal loop that I was just talking about. So, fantastic addition to the deck. Surgehacker Mech, I've already kind of talked about everything that you can do with this. It's, and then eventually, you know, you can use the cats that Esika's Chariot makes to crew it. And it's a 5/5 menace, which is fantastic. Don't forget, of course, that Esika's Chariot is also an artifact. So if you have Jin-Gitaxias in play and you cast Esika's Chariot, you get double Esika's Chariot. If you already have Mirror Box in play, the one doesn't disappear because of the legendary rule. So you'll have now multiple Esika's Chariots, scissors, copying multiple things. I've had this thing go completely bonkers in testing. Like, I really hope we get at least one game like that in tonight's gameplay footage to really flex all the possibilities that this brew can do. So yeah, talking about Tamiyo, the first ability is nothing to be scoffed at. You can tap an opponent's Celestus, you can tap, you know, an opponent's treasures so that they can't counter something that you're about to cast next. For example, you know, the opponent has like one treasure token and one blue mana left open and something foretold, and you're like, ooh, I want to cast my Jin-Gitaxias or my Jin-Clex, and it's probably a sword coming. You can just tap down the opponent's treasure, and now it can't be used for mana. It's also a play that I've used before. It's pretty sweet, but mostly it's in here just for that, like, you know, maybe you don't have enough chump blockers to protect your planeswalker, so you just tap down the one creature that you know you don't have enough chump blockers for, or let's say you don't have any way of dealing with a flying creature that's about to come through and kill your Tamiyo, but you've got enough, you know, cats and things on the ground. You just tap down the opponent's flyer every turn with your Tamiyo. And of course, Tamiyo is legendary. You can have multiple Tamiyos on the battlefield with the Mirror Box. And I've had it before where I copied I made a Tamiyo token with a Tamiyo. And then I started copying the Tamiyos with the Esika's Chariot, and I had like loads of them on the battlefield, and I was just tapping down everything the opponent was playing, and I had like, oh, don't forget, of course, that Tamiyo's notebook is itself a token, which you can copy with the Esika's Chariot. So I had multiple Tamiyo's notebooks and drawing cards, and everything cost almost nothing to cast. You know, it reduces the cost of things by 2 less for the colorless, and we've got quite a few colorless pips in the deck. And so like I was casting things for next to nothing, like a 2-mana Jin-Gitaxias, potentially. So many shenanigans. That brings us to our Phyrexians. I don't think I really need to talk about how good Jin-Clex is in the format right now. It shuts down all the sagas, all the planeswalkers, and there's loads of that. Just fantastic. And the fact that your planeswalkers get double loyalty is great. Then we've got Jin-Gitaxias. That's just, you know, when they're both on the battlefield together, they're not necessarily synergizing, but they're both such oppressive effects. Everything, you know, the opponent has to cast twice to get, you know, even just this card draw spell. You know, I've had opponents that don't read cards properly. They cast a deluge, and it just gets countered straight away by Jin-Gitaxias, and they scoop. They would first have to, let's say, burn a Consider or Sword Coming, I don't know, a Fading Hope or something, try and bounce on my creatures. It would get countered, and then you could cast your Memory Deluge to draw a card to find a solution to kill Jin-Gitaxias, and you would need to find 2 solutions because the first one would get countered. It's a really sticky threat, and we can have multiples of them on board because of the Mirror Box, and it, you know, the copying effects is just fantastic. So I really, really hope that we get it all to pop off. The mana base is going to help us do that because we do have 2 copies of each of the new legendaries. So more enchantment removal, a way to bring back our creatures and planeswalkers, a way to bounce the opponent's creatures and planeswalkers. Actually, I think it's anything. Artifacts, creatures, enchantments, planeswalkers, yeah, pretty much. And we've got 2 Fields of Ruins. As I said, the 2 Snowlands over here to go fetch with our Binding of the Old Gods, and then just a hodgepodge of dual lands in the colors that I needed for the deck. And that's the brew, Sultai Jin-Clex. Let's jump into some games. Now, as usual, at this point in my video is when I like to do a tiny bit of self-promotion. So if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, kindly consider doing so. The next milestone is set at 1,000 subscribers, so help us get there, please. I should be getting access to the community tab that we obtained with the 500 subs, like within a day or two. Can't wait. Oh, that's a mulligan for sure. If you could also like the video, leave a comment, and hit the bell icon. That will make me a very, very happy brewmaster. Looking like some kind of burn deck here. What do you guys think? Redlands, Chandra skins. Oh, Dragonos. This guy makes Dragonos. Sure. Just build up to a tasty massacre and then just hold up downfall. I basically just look at this as an enchantment removal spell. I don't look at it as a land anymore. Perfect. Get rid of that. Thank you. It's unfortunate that the opponent has to fetch a land, but it's still nice. Green. Goro. Disciple of Ryusei. Off you go. Finally a Bankbuster. We do need to start drawing some cards. The opponent's like way ahead of us as far as card advantage is concerned. Don't mind if I do. Goldspan Dragon. Another Raiju. Will eventually get through all of his removal, I hope. Okay. First piece of the puzzle is here. Hopefully he doesn't have another hasty threat, but
we are past, we are future.
Hopefully we top deck a
the gears of the story still turn.
Esika's Chariot next turn. No luck. Plenty ramp going on. So, do we just kill this thing? Still leaves me with mana to draw a card. And tap 1 mana, I think. Yeah. Getting kind of dangerously low. One turn too late. Now this is gonna get, it's gonna disappear. Can't copy it. It's okay. It's okay. Sure. Skadoosh. Looks like we finally kind of whittled down his threats with all of our removal. Oh wow. There's Velomachus coming through. Perfect. That life gain is just fantastic. One, two, three, four, five, six. He's 2 turns away from casting this guy. Gatekeeper. I wonder what he'll exile. Not the binding. Ah. Nice. Make some little 1/1s. It's a bit disappointing. It's very disappointing. Okay. The opponent scoops. Just getting started, man. It's okay. We got to see kind of the beginnings of the workings. Esika's Chariot arriving a turn late, but we almost started to get things cranking there. On to the next match. Just getting warmed up. Then if we're feeling good, we'll take this on the ladder. It's just it's the last day of the season, and I do want to, tomorrow morning I'm just going to Naya aggro 5 hours non-stop, boom boom boom, try and get into the top 1100. I think it's probably still your best bet, like if you play it well, and I played it so much in the last couple of seasons that I'm like pretty good at piloting that deck. So I think I'm just gonna, yeah, spam Naya aggro on the last day of the month. Kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't, you know, I keep forgetting that February is less days. I kept thinking I had a few more days to go to grind, and suddenly it's like, oh wait, season ends tomorrow. Whoops. Boros player detected. Sure. I don't think there's... I mean, if I see a blue land, then I'll regret that choice. Because... Negate could be a thing. Playing around negate. Picked up Jin-Clex, which is pretty decent. Haha! Took my chance. Here comes Hinata. Okay. Epic. Hopefully he doesn't have a... It's either Fading Hope or a Valorous Stance. 1 mana negate. Nice. This card is so busted. This is going to be the new control deck at the tournaments. I'm ready to take bets on the matter. How are we gonna kill this thing now? Can't even do much. Just counter something, potentially. Okay. Mate. Same position. One more turn to get rid of this Hinata. Here comes the big spell. Magma Opus. I'm ready. Oh, you got to be kidding me, guys. You have got to be actually freaking kidding me. It costs 1 extra to do. Unbelievable. We just lost again. Just still learning how to play against this card. I forgot. Even your stuff costs more. It's not just a reduction on his. Obviously. 1 more mana and we would have had him. What a pity. Well played, opponent. Well played. On to the next one. Yeah, getting a little warmed up. Deck's kind of doing its thing. I just worry I'm gonna get like mono white aggroed in like 2 seconds if I don't draw a Meathook Massacre. Interesting. Mr. Simic. Double Tamiyos. Okay. Yeah. Potentially dodging some kind of counter spell. Won't just play my Chariot into an untapped blue land. Okay, so a Simic ramp with snow, which means probably the 5 mana draw spell. Something like, I can't remember the name.
Phyrexia's victory will be etched into the flesh of the... You cannot delay our victory.
Go with the binding next. And then the Chariot, as far as layering my combo goes. As long as you control 8 or more lands, blah 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 blah. Tammy can take 2. Or we could block with the Innkeeper, but I don't think that's a good idea. Never mind. You had to know Blizzard Brawl was in there with the Snowlands. At least we don't take the damage, which is always the nice thing about Planeswalkers. Imagine he has like a huge fight spell.
Your resistance is noted.
Your resistance is noted. Artifact removal in green. Yes. I don't like how you're eyeing my Bankbuster there, buddy. Okay. Let's go fetch the red one so we can... If we get a Valki, we've got the lands to do it now. I'm going to save my mirror box for if and when we get a Jin-Gitaxias. Okay, no counter spells.
Such an imperfect form.
Okay. That's a ramp. But what is it all for? Is there gonna be a Coma, the Cosmos Serpent? That would be a big problem. A Shire. Unfortunately, that makes our whole thing completely useless. Because everything is a land now. Okay, we need to kill a Shire. We have the instant speed removal. Target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Oh my gosh, the one thing that would have invalidated our combo. We could bounce it. Costs one less for each legendary, so 1, 2 legendaries. Uncounterable. Maybe he has hexproof. Sure. -X, 4. Bring back the binding.
You still have a role in our grand story.
Crew the chariot. Copy the binding. Destroy the sculptor. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Whew. But now he's just going to bring it back. So we still need to top deck a fallen whatever. But we can just tap her down every time with Tamiyo. And I could even just put a mirror box down and play a second Tamiyo. Uh-huh. Perfect. Bye-bye. Off you go. Please don't come again.
Go. Share the story of Phyrexia with your family. Bow before
Double
Phyrexia.
Tamiyo.
You do not write this story.
Another binding. Endless loop obtained. Now if we just get off Phyrexians, but I'm assuming the opponent's about to scoop. Unless he has some like bounce everything to your hand type nonsense that Simic plays, like the giant dude, or there's that new spell that does the same thing, kind of. Is it the salty rope? Gotta get the Salt Bear meme to like flash on the screen whenever this happens. Once my editing skills improve. Perfect timing to reduce my RDA. Oh, come on, don't be so salty. Bubble snare. He's like, well, whatever I play gets destroyed. can destroy the bubble snares too, though. It's just I'm gonna have trouble crewing the Chariot. Although I can crew the Bankbuster with the pilot, and then I can use the Bankbuster to crew the Chariot. We're still good. Ooh. Ooh. Hello, Jin. Welcome, mate. Hope you're doing fan-bloody-tastic. Please don't scoop. Please don't scoop. Please don't scoop. It's Uncle Jin. He wants to tickle your head and pop it in his mouth. Having a good read, I guess. Note that it's a 6/6 because of the mirror box. So now, let us crew 3. Boom. Crew 4. Boom. I don't even need to tap it down with Tamiyo. Yeah, let's bring back a Prosperous Innkeeper. Just for fun. Note how the Chariot's also a 5/5 because it's a creature now. Suddenly the legend rule thing. He's like, okay, I better... Okay, I guess I'll... Actually, no, yeah, I don't have to tap it. As soon as I make the token, I'll just kill it. Oh, baby. We did the thing. We did the thing. And I really like how I navigated that Ashaya problem. Badoosh! Alright guys, I think that's a perfect game to end the video on. Definitely the brew can get way crazier than that. Imagine Jin-Clex, imagine copying. It goes way crazy. I think I did a very good job of describing that in the deck tech portion of the video. But now, as far as the final thoughts, I don't think there's anything you could really do to change it the way I've built it right now. But going back to the question I posed at the beginning, is the Bankbuster enough card draw? I think if we had been playing on ranked, the question would have probably been, the answer to that question would have been no. And we'll have to try another Sultai deck where I lean a little less on the jank potential of the token copying and maybe a little bit more on just Jin-Gitaxias. And I've got some ideas, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for tonight's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow for some fresh brews. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.